It's time for the Best of the Burg. We celebrate what makes Lynchburg such a great place to live, work, and play. The Best of the Burg will tell you about the best places to visit, the best food, the best entertainment, and the people that make us proud to call the Hill City home. Best of the Burg is brought to you by Bank of the James, where community and banking come together for good. Learn more at bankofthejames.bank. Here are your hosts, Mary and Biscuit.
Welcome to Best of the Burg. Here we go, Mary White, along with Anthony Biscuit McAvoy on this final Best of the Burg for the month of May. Biscuit, it's flown by.
It has. It has.
And it looks like it's finally stopped raining, at least for the time being.
Hopefully it stays that way.
As we are live on a Friday. If you're listening on Saturday morning, who knows what the weather is doing if you're listening to the replay. But on this Friday, it looks like we've had a dreary week earlier, but now the sun is shining. We'll see. They're calling for some storms later today, but we are going to enjoy this sunshine while we have it. And we have a great show for you here on Best of the Burg as we focus on all the great things that are going on in Lynchburg, all the happenings in the Burg, and things that are going on. And we are going to kick it right off with our first guest, and he is Joel with CNC Automotive. Hi, Joel. Good to see you.
Thank you for having me here.
Yeah, and so you were saying how, believe it or not, being on the radio is not usually what you do when you're working with cars.
It is. I'm usually the one behind the scenes repairing the cars and just doing what I love to do.
Right. And being on, those are two things that don't typically go together.
Well, cars and radio go together.
Right. You have radios in cars.
Yes.
So Joel, you were saying how you just love cars. It's like it's a hobby of yours that you've been fortunate enough to then make your profession as well. But you grew up around cars, right?
I did.
In Michigan?
Yes.
All right. Talk about like Ford. I mean, tell us about that. Tell us about how you came to love working in this industry.
My grandfather worked for Ford for 45 years before he retired. My dad worked for General Motors. My godfather worked for General Motors and retired from Cadillac. So growing up around cars has always been a thing in my life.
So you say you remember how early, as a teenager, or when did you first start? Kind of, were you tinkering with cars? How did that work?
The first time I got interested in cars, the bad thing is I was 5 years old and I got stuck in between the engine and the radiator with my dad trying to put it in. So, and it's kind of like, I'm stuck. How do I get out?
And you remember that. It was probably more terrifying for your dad than it was for you.
It was. And I'm like, I like this.
You liked it.
I didn't. I'm weird.
Well, that was probably a sign that you were going to work in cars as you grew up. If you liked being like really right in the car,
yes,
basically, kind of. You know, most of us think of being in the car in a different way than
right.
Joel does. But we'll talk about how you had that early childhood memory, your whole family working for the different car companies, and then how did you kind of work that in as you became an adult?
In this industry, starting out, it was just change parts, and I learned early on, you can change parts, but why? Then I got in the habit of just taking things apart and figuring out why it failed, why I'm replacing it, trying to understand the workings of the electronics and everything else. And it just got to a point where it's like, I'm going to do everything on a car instead of one area. You have places and people that specialize in front suspensions, that's all they do. You got guys that do brakes, and that's it. You have transmission shops, all they do is transmissions. But when you can do everything, it's it's rare to find somebody that can do everything.
And you can. And you are an ASE Master Tech.
Yes, ma'am.
And you have been for 35 years.
25, actually. I've been in the industry for 35 years.
Okay. But what does that mean, an ASE Master Tech?
ASE stands for Automotive Service Excellence. What that means is I am confident and knowledgeable about the system or vehicles that I'm working on, and I can repair them with precision and quality. Some states require you to be an ASE Master Tech to work on some vehicles. South Carolina, to work on a state trooper's car, you have to be an ASE Master Tech and it has to be current. Texas is the same way. I've worked in both states, and I've been around a little bit of everything.
And you, obviously, 25 years as an ASE Master Tech, that means you know what you're doing for the entire car. It's kind of cool the way you describe it. Every car is like a puzzle, and you're just trying to figure it out.
It is, and sometimes you have that one piece that you're trying to find in a big box that makes everything fit and work. A lot of vehicles that I've seen lately is that piece is not there that nobody can find, and when you actually find it, it makes the customers happy and makes you feel good that you've done something that nobody's been able to find or figure out after the vehicle's been to 3 or 4 or 5 different shops, and they're like, "Wow, you actually found it."
I kind of think he's like the car doctor. Mm-hmm. Like you can find
the car whisperer.
You can find what's wrong with the car when no one else can. The car whisperer. I like that too.
A lot of times, yes, but there's sometimes I get into cars and I beat my head up against a wall, and with all the advanced technology that's on these cars, sometimes you have to go back to basics.
Well, and I'm sure it's probably changed over the years as like technology in cars has changed in advance.
It has. The automotive industry changes every 6 months with technology and manufacturers update, mid-year changes with the manufacturers from one design to another design, programming issues. It changes. And a lot of folks don't realize is the technician has to stay up to date with the equipment. Most of the shops I've worked at, they don't supply the equipment, the diagnostic equipment, to service the vehicle. The technician does. When you're talking $25,000 to $30,000 for one piece of equipment to service that vehicle, it's for a technician, that's a lot of money.
Yeah. Well, what is that? What as we speak with Joel with CNC Automotive, is that one reason that CNC Automotive is different?
Possibly. The equipment I have multiple different diagnostic platforms that I use. They're all current, up to date with software. I have the latest repair information that gets updated because it's live. As soon as the manufacturers put it out, they translate it, and I have access to it. It's usually within a week of release from the manufacturer that I actually have access to it. There's some stuff out there that's proprietary that no matter what, I don't have access to. No matter what we've tried with the automotive industry, there's just certain information we don't have access to.
But you will be able to work with everything that you do have and figure it out.
Correct.
Now, what else makes CNC Automotive special?
I try to treat the customers as family, not a number or a dollar amount. It's if I can build a relationship with the consumer, that's what I want. I want the customer to come in, feel comfortable with the place they're going to get their vehicle serviced, and at the end of the day, say, hey, I've got a guy. I've got a guy for that. That's what I want.
Because a lot of people, it sounds like, are coming to you after another place has been unsuccessful.
Correct. The last month, I've had 3 or 4 vehicles come in from different facilities as far away as Charlottesville, where they couldn't fix it. and it was brought to me.
Could you fix it?
Oh, yes. And that particular one was a weird one because I didn't get all the information on the vehicle when I started it. And I told them, I'm going to start from ground zero and do my diagnostics and figure out what the problem is and figure out the root cause and figure out who's telling the truth and who's not. And it ended up being another shop fixed it, plugged in a connector wrong, ended up costing the customer a good chunk of change because they had to put an ECM in it, and they're driving the truck.
You fixed it.
I did.
Figured it out.
I did.
Now, Joel, talk about what services people can expect when they bring their vehicles to you at CNC Automotive.
The list of what I don't do is a lot shorter of what I can do. The list I don't do is I don't do custom exhaust and I don't do paint and body work. But everything else I can do, from your minor oil changes to your major overhauls, and it's just the quality of work that we provide at CNC that a lot of folks have been really happy with.
From the, as you said, the basic stuff like maintenance, oil changes, fluid flushes, but then more complex problems as well.
Yes, correct.
And I know that you are a big supporter of veterans and first responders.
Yes. As a veteran, I want to give back to the community for that.
Thank you for your service. How long did you serve?
12 years.
12 years. And in which branch?
Army.
Army.
My dad was a Marine. I'm sorry. Grandfather was Army. Uncle was Marine. My brother's Army. And, I did 12 years.
Well, thanks again for your service. And it sounds like you had great role models in your professional, with cars, the automobile industry, but then also in the military as well.
I did.
And you followed in their footsteps. I'm sure they were very proud. But tell us, you do have discounts for veterans.
The military, firefighters, police, EMS, they get a 10% discount for my way of saying thank you for what you do for the community and the country. I wish I can do more, but it's something.
Yeah,
it's better than what a lot of places don't do.
And Joel, before we let you go for now, I know you just want to you have something for listeners who might be looking for. Maybe they've had some car issues. Maybe they haven't been completely satisfied with their guy. What is your message for those listeners?
I guess give me the opportunity to make it right, and we can go from there.
Yeah, and it sounds like your shop, you really want to treat your customers like family.
I do.
Remind people how they can get in touch with you and your location, that kind of thing.
It's CNC Automotive in Concord, Virginia. We're right off of 460 and Doss Road. The number is 434-993-2525, option 2.
Option 2.
Yep.
All right. Joel with CNC Automotive, and tell him, Joel sent you, and he'll treat you like family, and he'll be your guy. You can call him the car whisperer, too, if you want. Right, Anthony?
Or the car doctor. Either one, I think, works.
Yeah. Joel, thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you for having me
and
here.
We'll talk to you again very soon.
Thank you.
We'll be right back here on Best of the Burg.
Stay tuned for more of the Best of the Burg. Welcome back to the Best of the Burg. Know an awesome band from the Burg? Let us know on Facebook at WLNI Best of the Burg.
You can spread your rumors and hide behind
Welcome
every
back to Best of
lie.
the Burg. Mary White along with Anthony Biscuit McAvoy. And we love to feature local musicians here on Best of the Burg. This is Michael Dill and Christy Mayberry, Fire and Brimstone. A dynamic amalgamation of soulful blues, rock, and country music as Christy and Michael Wayne Dill joined forces in their musical collaboration, and you can find Fire and Brimstone on YouTube. That's a great sound.
Amalgamation, also a word that could have been used in a spelling bee this morning.
It should. I was going to say, I was going to ask you to spell it for me.
Well, see,
but
the
it's
problem
right
is it's also right in front of me.
So that's why I didn't ask you, because I knew you would be able, that word you would be able to spell since it is right.
I shouldn't have used integrity. I should have cheated this morning.
I guess you could have really quickly, as you were being given.
Neither of you would have known.
Yes, we had a little impromptu spelling bee this morning, and we would give the words to Biscuit, and you weren't able to spell any of them. But you're right, you could have cheated. So you're a terrible speller, but at least you're not a cheater.
But at least I have integrity.
Right. So, what are, Biscuit, our national days?
So, I think we've got a couple fun ones this week. Wednesday was National Beef Burger Day. Do you have, like, if you see a burger on a menu, what toppings on it have to be on it in order for that to be the immediate, this is what I'm getting?
You know what I like is caramelized onions and blue cheese. I think that's a really good combination to have on a burger. I mean, I will go with the traditional, just some cheddar cheese and mustard and ketchup and pickles. I'm fine with that too, but if it's a fancy burger, I just like that combination.
That's a great combination.
How about you?
I am a sucker for an egg on a burger. But I'm also someone who, I'm a big mushroom and Swiss guy on a burger. I kind of like, I'm a big mushroom fan just to begin with. But if I see that on a burger, I'm getting it immediately. Wednesday also was National Brisket Day. So if you're a barbecue fan, this has been a pretty good, 2-week stretch for you, because I think it was either last week or the week before was National Barbecue Day. And then just, a week or two later, it's National Brisket Day. And if you get a really good brisket, I mean, it's probably one of the better just things that you could eat.
We're heading into summer. That's why we're getting some of these barbecue days.
We are. Friday, which is today. If you're listening right now. If you're listening on Saturday, it was yesterday. National Creativity Day. Have you been creative today? Probably. Well, yeah, you got creative with the Friday Five this morning.
We did. Sure. It's been sometimes when you just have a busy day and just a list of things you have to get done that day, then there's not a lot of room for creativity. How about you?
I've worked on a couple spots today. I count that as being creative.
Very good. That is.
They were pretty road mapped, but still a little creative.
Good. I think those jobs. Well, it's like we were just talking with Joel with CNC Automotive, and how he has to look at every car like a puzzle, and that has to some creative thinking. Like, what's wrong here? How can I figure this out where no one else has? So most jobs, I think, will involve some kind of creativity to figure out problems.
Yeah. Now this one on Friday also, I've got a little bit of an exception with, because this should have been multiple weeks ago. I don't understand why today, Friday, May 30th, is National Mint Julep Day. Doesn't it seem like, we had, a pretty big event that doesn't revolve around mint juleps, but is pretty synonymous with mint juleps? Wouldn't you think that National Mint Julep Day would be on the day of the Kentucky Derby every year?
It would be, or at least in early May, because that's when the Kentucky Derby is, the first Saturday. So, yeah, they would make it. But you're right. I wondered about this, too. And mint juleps, or maybe it needs another day because it's such a terrible drink. It really is gross. I just can't stand them.
You don't like bourbon and mint?
Nope. Not bourbon and sugar water and a little bit of mint. No. By the way, Pun Bill suggests that today we call you Brisket, since it's Brisket Day.
Look,
and instead of biscuit, today you are Brisket.
Here's the thing. So I've made my nickname, whatever you want to call it. Sometimes it's just my name. I mean, the amount of times that people come up to me and they're like, do I just call you Biscuit? And I'm like, yeah, sure. It's fine. I love biscuits, don't get me wrong. But I am a sucker for barbecue and brisket. Like, I could eat that probably every meal. Some sort of, pulled pork, ribs, brisket. I'm salivating just thinking about it.
Maybe we named you wrong. You should be Brisket instead of Biscuit.
Or maybe I can be a barbecue biscuit.
Okay. Coming up on Best of the Burg, we're going to check in with Russ with Southern Air and some changes, regulation changes that are coming up soon that might affect your HVAC system. And he's going to be joined by their VP of Service with Southern Air, Charles Cardwell, to tell us about that. And of course, a little bit later, we'll have events that are happening in the Burg. And again, we want to thank our sponsor, Bank of the James. Best of the Burg continues right after this.
Hi, this is Paul Witten with Witten Funeral Home and Cremation Service, and you're listening to the Best of the Burg on WLNI.
Welcome back to Best of the Burg, rolling right along here on this last Best of the Burg for the month of May. Mary White, along with Anthony Biscuit McAvoy, and we welcome to the studio friends from Southern Air. Russ Jackson is back. Hi, Russ.
Hi, Mary. How are you?
Good to see you.
Good
I'm
to
doing
see you,
well.
dear.
And you have brought with you Charles Cardwell. He is your VP of Service. Hi, Charles. Good to see you.
Nice to see you. Thank you for having us
Yes.
today.
Now, Russ, we've talked to you before about Southern Air, and just remind folks what you all do and what makes you special.
Well, since so we are the HVAC, mechanical, plumbing, and electrical experts of the area. We've been around since 1946, and have grown with this community as the industry has grown. And so whether it's a brand new out of the ground design build construction project, if it's a building that you already have that the temperature just doesn't feel right in there, or it's your home that you want to be more comfortable because you don't want that room to be hot and that room to be cold, we have the experts that can take care of those problems.
Very good. And a few weeks ago, I had heard just some rumblings, if you will, about some changes that were going to be coming this summer, which is
Here.
I was going to
We're
say
here.
right around the corner, but
Like
it's here.
now.
Like
It's now.
now. It's
Changes that were coming that might mean increased prices for customers for HVAC systems starting later this summer. And to my novice ears, I couldn't really make heads or tails of it. So when I knew you were going to be with us, Russ, I said, okay, let's figure out let's explain to listeners what's going on here and what they can expect. And so Charles is along to kind of talk us through. Mm-hmm. And this has to do with refrigerant. Is that correct?
Yes, indeed.
Okay. And it has to do with regulation. So Charles, walk us through what's going on here.
Okay, so to tell the story, I think we need to back up just a little bit
Okay.
to say how we got here. So refrigerant is what it takes to cool your home, any business. It really doesn't ever wear out. So in the beginning, they started out with what they called a CFC refrigerant. And the CFC means that it had the chlorine molecule in the refrigerant. That chlorine molecule was going into the ozone and breaking up the ozone and causing lots of problems. So
The hole in the ozone
the
layer.
hole in the
right?
ozone
Yeah,
layer. So
uh-huh,
that started it all.
And when was this? Like the 19...
So that refrigerant that started out with the 30s and the 50s, they really started getting aggressive with it. I came into the trade in '85, and it was really changing a lot about that time.
And is this with people when you have a system in your house? Is this with little portable AC units as well, or just
Everything,
Everything.
from
Okay.
dehumidifiers for your house,
Okay.
run on it, your refrigerator, your air conditioning, all things.
And I'm just thinking, a little walk down memory lane when I was a kid and we got central air in our
Yes,
house.
that's right.
Biscuit. We were the first house in the neighborhood. It was a big deal to have central air. And now I think people don't even know the concept. of not
Without.
having
Were you
central
also
air.
the first in the neighborhood to get the bottom of your cars filled in too, so you didn't have to use your
So we didn't have to
feet?
use our feet.
Oh,
Yeah.
nice.
Thanks, Biscuit. Thanks.
Flintstones.
She always does. Yeah. So anyway, so I guess as we're using it more, then it's more of became more of a problem for the ozone
So
layer.
the regulation we're dealing with today goes back to they've fixed the problem with the chlorine molecule in the refrigerant. Now they're looking at what they call global warming potential. So now that we've gone past the hole in the ozone, they feel like we have a zero ozone depletion potential in a refrigerant now. Now they're trying to get it to where it doesn't stay around in the atmosphere for 100 years and continue to warm the surface and cause big storms that you always hear about on the news and stuff.
That's right. Yeah.
So this has gone from that, the global warming portion. So they keep there's a threshold of 700, and so the refrigerants are trying to get lower and lower below this 700 threshold. So what you're hearing about that's coming along, starting January the 1st, actually 2025, you can't buy a heat pump or an air conditioner or a refrigerator for your home that has a refrigerant in it that has a global warming potential of greater than 700. So it took all this new retooling for all the manufacturers. There has been some political jargon back and forth about let's fix our heating and air conditioning business and go back to the old stuff. That's gone. It's not going to ever happen. Where we're at now is how do we take what's been mandated to us and how do we make that work?
As we said, it is what it is.
It is what it is.
It's the regulation. So
Yes.
now you're just trying to abide by it. So what's going on?
Well, I think part of the thing with the retooling is that the whole system of cylindering this refrigerant and transporting it is completely different. And so companies now are having to provide technicians with new tools, new training. The canisters of refrigerant that we used to use were rechargeable. These new regulations say that they're one-time usage, and so getting just these canisters to move this refrigerant is a task in itself. They're left-handed threaded versus right-handed threaded, and so everything is just kind of changed a little bit to where it's making it much better for the environment now, but a little more pinch on your wallet because with anything else, the cost will kind of come down to the consumer. And so as everybody tries to get a handle on how to service and utilize these A2L refrigerants, we're all kind of figuring it out on the go. It's almost like switching from a gas car to an electric car. It's a great concept, it's a great idea, but we're still in the process of building the charging stations.
So is it something where, like, if you were to come in and say somebody's AC system needed more refrigerant, that you would actually potentially have to go in and change parts to put in new refrigerant?
Well, if they have an existing refrigerant system, we call it 410A was the number of it, you can still buy that refrigerant right now. The market's still a little bit flooded with that as people are changing their systems out. That's getting recycled, so that market is still available. Really what we're talking about is since January 1, 2025, if you get a new unit for your home, it has to be this new refrigerant.
Gotcha.
And what we're having is we can't buy it. They're allowing Southern Air to buy 120-pound drum a day is all they're allowed. The supplier says, we might have it in July, we might have it in June, we hope we have it in June, but nobody can tell us, and they're not admitting, is it just the container or are they having problems with producing the product, the new gas? So that's what we're fighting now. You really shouldn't need the new refrigerant too much if you put in a new system because it's new. It shouldn't have any leaks, but if something happens to that, then that's where the problem starts.
We're speaking with Russ Jackson and Charles Cardwell with Southern Air. Is this, so it went into effect January 1st, but are we thinking that people will really start to feel the effects, if you will, this summer as maybe somebody needs a new system or they're gonna notice the change?
Well, that is happening now.
Yeah.
The manufacturers are having problems getting the equipment out, so buying the equipment has been a little bit of a struggle. Luckily at Southern Air, we have good relationships. We have enough buying power from buying all the different the quantities that we do that we're able to get a lot of this. And so I guess that to answer your question, the problem is just going to be can we get it? And the manufacturer's saying, we're sending you the unit, it's pre-charged with X amount of gas. You shouldn't need any more gas, but quality assurance isn't where it was. And so we're needing to buy some refrigerant to top off somebody's charge. And we're getting stuck with that problem as well.
It's why being so proactive with maintenance, annual maintenance is so important. It's I do like coming back to the car analogy of never getting your oil changed. You would never drive your car until the engine light came on, right? And so with your system right now, there's no reason to panic or freak out about trying to buy something new. Just maintain it the way that you know that you need to do. If we find something, we can address it then. But it's the current system that you have should be good, but you want to get as much life out of that puppy as you can. And so make sure that someone's looking under the hood of that thing before it does break and now you're handcuffed to whatever you can buy next.
You mentioned it's a left-handed threading instead of right-handed. Why is that?
Because I asked him to.
Yeah, well, you're left-handed.
Yeah.
I'm left-handed, but usually.
Oh, you guys are taking over. Is that what this is?
Well,
You're doing some behind-the-scenes
Like,
campaign.
I do know that most people are right-handed, and that it can be difficult. Is it difficult for all of a sudden the right-handed people to?
The truth to that answer is I don't want to scare anybody, but it's a mildly flammable refrigerant. So that's the problem. And so they put the left hand on so the technician knows subliminally, hey, I'm not working with this old refrigerant, I'm working with the new stuff. So it's kind of a catch-22 to help us make sure we do the right thing. We don't put the wrong gas in the wrong system, something like that. So it's not going to catch on fire. The chance of it catching on fire is like 0.001 or less. But you have to be prepared for that. So to make it, I believe in the keep it simple.
KISS. Keep it simple, stupid. Yeah,
Yes.
You can say it, Charles.
Okay.
You can say it. It's
We're in a
okay.
safe place here.
I really believe in that method. And so I think that nationally they did that just to keep it simple,
Yeah,
stupid.
that's good. It's like it's a clear difference.
That's
a clear
correct, yes,
difference.
And finally, a win for us lefties.
I know. And so you mentioned as we kind of have any word of advice for listeners about this change. And Russ, you mentioned keep your current system maintained to, as you said, get as much life out of that puppy as possible.
Right.
But anything else that consumers should know with these changes?
This is expensive, complex machinery. Keeping it maintained by an expert that knows what they're doing, like at Southern Air, is your best way to really get as much out of that before you're put in a position where you've got to make a major financial commitment to your home again. Otherwise, what you need to know is that these refrigerants are good for the earth. They're much better for the earth, and while it might be a little bit more expensive for now, that shouldn't last too long. And this is should be a good thing for us all moving forward.
And like you said, the technology will kind of catch up.
Right.
Iron the kinks out of it.
Right. But right now, if you've got the old stuff, keep the old stuff, keep it maintained. Those things have decades long lifespans if you treat them the correct way. And so, I mean, if you've ever seen your grandpa, someone driving around an old 86 Honda Accord, it's because they're keeping that thing upright. Yeah. You can keep these things cruising to where you don't have to worry about this at all for years to come. But the best thing you can do, the absolute best thing you can do, is maintain proper maintenance on your equipment.
Anything else you want to let listeners know about going on at Southern Air before we go?
It's summer is getting here. So I mean, get some of your maintenance in now. Make sure we've switched over from heating to cooling. Let's make sure your homes, your systems are good to go. Storm seasons are rapidly approaching here, and Southern Air, especially Southern Air Residential, does a tremendous amount with whole home generators to keep your lights on should they go out during one of these wild little pop-up storms. I think we're going to have a few today, as a matter of fact.
One quick thing I'd like to bring up is when I was leaving, I was shaking the hand of all the apprentices that we had in and, just introducing myself to them. And there was 8 or 10 young men in the hallway, and I was asking them what department they were coming in. So we're working really hard on this apprenticeship program and working with the high schools, with CVCC. And so if you've got someone young and they're looking for a job, get them in a trade, because that's the future right now. I think everything in life is cylindrical, and when I was coming along, it was the hot thing to do, and then it kind of faded away. It's coming back, We need people. There's no operable windows in this office here, and so we've got to have heating and air conditioning to keep it warm and cool.
Russ and Charles, thank you both so much.
Thank you, man.
And
This is so much fun.
Yeah, it is fun to talk to you. I'm sorry we didn't have lunch. The only thing that would have made it better is if we had lunch for
A
you.
brisket
Or
is
if you had brought
now.
lunch for us.
I'm
but
now. So it's going to be a brisket next
know.
time because I'm not going to be able to think about anything else,
If I can make that happen,
buddy.
buddy.
Russ Jackson and Charles Cardwell with Southern Air. Thanks so much. We'll talk to
you
you
all.
again soon.
Thank you
And
so much.
We'll be back with Happenin in the Burg next on Best of the Burg.
More of the best of the Burg coming up right after this quick break.
Hi, this is Brandon Farmer with Bank of the James, and you're listening to the Best of the Burg here on WLNI.
Wrapping things up here on Best of the Burg. Thanks again to our guest today, Joel with C&C Automotive, and also just now, Russ and Charles with Southern Air. And it is time now for...
Happening in the Burg.
What do we have going on?
We've got some fun events this week. This is Friday and Saturday from 6 p.m. to 11 p.m. At Camden Field. This is the... You just told me and I'm going to mess it up. Buna. Yeah, thank you. The Buena Vista Fire Department Carnival. If you purchase a wristband for $20, you can ride anything all night. All your favorite carnival food and treats, and they will have live entertainment. Again, this is at Camden Field, their Fire Department Carnival. Then also Friday at 7 p.m., this is at Court Street United Methodist Church. Mary, I'm actually going to be able to pronounce a music person correctly.
Okay.
You want to know why?
Why?
Because his name is Robert McCormick.
That's an easier one.
He will be doing an organ recital at Court Street United Methodist Church at 7 p.m. Admission to this event is free. He is widely heralded by his colleagues and deeply admired for his creative and ethereal performance abilities and is also a master teacher of organ improvisation, commanding eloquent performances of repertoire of all styles. So that's at 7 p.m. on Friday. Also, Friday from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. at Mountain View Church in Forest, Virginia. They will be doing their 26th annual yard sale from 6 to 8 p.m. They'll also be doing this Saturday morning from 7 a.m. to 12 p.m. I believe it is free to get in the door, but of course, since it is a yard sale, it is anything will have some sort of price to it. Mary, I just think this is cool because at the 29 Drive-In at I Scream, You Scream this weekend, they'll be showing Wizard of Oz. So that is Saturday from 7:15 to 10 p.m. The movie will start at 8:30. You can get your tickets 29drivein.com if you'd like to see the Wizard of Oz in your car, which that would be, I think, the movie. Like, if you've never seen a drive-in movie, because I haven't seen a drive-in movie, I think that's the movie you have to see, right? Like, that seems, for a drive-in movie, it seems like it's got to be one of the, like, all-time classic
to experience
movies.
that on the big screen with the sound. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, when I was a kid, again, back to when I was a kid, they would show, I can't remember which network it was, but they would show The Wizard of Oz once a year. And I would watch it every year. And I would think, man, I can't wait until next year when I can see it again. Because it wasn't now when you feel like watching The Wizard of Oz, you just, pull it up on some streaming service and you watch it. So it is just one of the family favorites, classics. Although I got to say, those flying monkeys are pretty scary.
Were they scary? I remember the first time I saw it.
Yeah.
And it was also one of those, like, a network was showing it for, like, not kind of how, like, TNT or TBS does A Christmas Story for 24 hours straight on Christmas. But it was one of those, I want to say it was TNT that was just showing it, like, it started at 7 and then they play it a couple times. I thought the monkeys were funny.
Oh, you did?
I
See, I thought
did.
they were pretty scary as a kid.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But it's to see that as a drive-thru, I think would be a lot of fun.
I think so too. I'm highly considering going to that. So also, excuse me, on Saturday, this is also on Sunday as well, from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. This is over in Monroe. The Monacan Indian Nation will have their 32nd anniversary powwow. Again, a 2-day event. $10 for adults, $5 for children ages 6 and 12, as well as seniors. Children 5 and under are free. This is a cash-only event, but it includes indigenous drumming, singing, and dancing, as well as food and crafts from across the Monacan Indian Nation. Again, that's in Monroe on Saturday and Sunday from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m.
It's a great tradition continued every year by the Monacan Indian Nation there.
I've got one more, but I'll do it quickly. The Gospel Music Festival at Avoca Museum, Sunday from 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. Doors open 1:30. Performances from 2 to 5. It's a free event.
Well, that's it for this edition of Best of Burg. Thanks again to our guests, Joel with CNC Automotive, and then Russ and Charles with Southern Air. Thanks again to Bank of the James, where community and banking come together. They're so pleased to support more than 250 local nonprofits and organizations, and they also support this program as a sponsor. We hope you have a wonderful weekend, and we will see you back here next Friday. Thanks for listening. We'll see you back here next week on Best of the Burg.